Hi everybody, my name is Gene and I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. I've been in the business for about 15 years. Today we're going to do some wild orchid paper crafts. I've actually done quite a few flowers, and if you've watched any of the other videos, we should be getting pretty good at it by now, but I want to show you some good techniques that you can use to make these flowers look just a little bit more realistic than putting a bunch of pieces of paper together. Let's get started. All right, so one of the greatest things about orchids in general is just how many different varieties there are. I'm going to build this one today out of yellow and red, and if you've seen any of my previous flower crafts, they're pretty simple if you break them down to their most basic points. Now, an orchid, and the scientific community might get mad at me for this, but I'm just going to say it because you're probably a kid or doing this with your kids, and they're not going to understand all the scientific explanations. But basically, an orchid has 5 petals. Now, really, they're not all technically petals, but for sake of argument and for this craft, we're calling them petals. Not petals like on a bicycle with a D, but petals like flower petals. Okay, so this is the basic shape we're going to draw. It's a Y, and it's essentially a triangle shape, okay, where the easiest way to build this is to build a triangle first, and make sure that there are 2 sides that are longer than the top. And the reason you do that is because there are actually going to be 5 petals, and if we made everything equilateral like this, then it would look weird with 2 petals coming out this way. But if we elongate the top side, or excuse me, the bottom side a little bit, then it'll look normal when we add 2 petals. So here's what we're going to do. We've got our triangle. We draw lines to the center point, and then kind of freehand this. And remember, it's okay if you don't get this exactly right. You don't have to be, each one of these petals doesn't have to be the same size. They don't have to be exactly the same shape. And the reason is because much like humans, where we all have different eyes, we have different hair, we have different skin, flower petals are different shapes as well. So now with the second one, we're going to draw kind of a little bit of a V. So something like that, and make sure that it's roughly the same width as your original one. And then we're going to throw the petals that aren't necessarily actually even really petals. There's another crazy name for them, but for all intents and purposes, for right now, they're petals. Okay, we're going to cut these out. Be relatively precise with your petal cutting, and I apologize, I just wasted a whole bunch of paper there. I drew the petals right in the center. You probably want to draw them closer to the edge so that you don't waste as much paper, so that you can do more and more flowers. And kids, if you're watching this video and you're doing this by yourself, make sure you get your parents to help you out with some of this cutting if you're having some trouble. Remember, there's no shame in asking for help, but there might be a lot of pain if you accidentally cut your finger. So be careful. And again, you don't have to go exactly along the lines here. You see I'm mostly going along the lines. But here, I'll deviate just a little so you can see. Not a big deal. All right. Now I'm going to do the other one. And those inner petals might actually be a little small. One of the crazy things about orchids is a lot of times their inner 2 petals are actually wider and thicker than the outer petals. Here we go. You can see I've been using scissors for a really long time, and even I still have a little bit of trouble. So don't worry if you have to ask for help. As you get older, sometimes if you have big giant hands like I have, it just gets tougher to cut everything because all this extra paper that's flopping around kind of gets a little bit in the way. So if you're a youngin', be glad that you have tiny little hands and you can cut through this paper. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to give each of these petals a little bit of a bend, okay, towards the center, so that they stand up a little. And we'll do the same thing on our double petal here, okay? And we're going to put the 2 inside the 3, just like this. And I want you to hold this in your fingers, like this, between your thumb and forefinger, and make a little sort of cup with your other hand and push the petals down the center. And what this is going to do is this is going to create the basic shape for you, and you can even crush it in a little bit, because it's okay if we ruffle some of these edges. See how I've got the edges a little bit ruffled here? This is how a flower might actually look. And then what we're going to do is we're going to peel each one of these flowers down, bend it just a little bit. So while it's there, you can even put it back in the little cup that you make with your hand. Peel the flower down so that these petals kind of like just curve over the side of your hand. Peel it down. Put this back in the center. And then we're going to make a single petal. And again, this is not going to actually be called a petal. Once you get into college, if you're a botanist, you'll understand that basically everything I'm telling you is a little bit of an exaggeration, a little bit of a lie. These aren't actually petals. The same way when you first start learning math, where they tell you a couple things, you know, like 2 + 2 = 4, and then you get into things like some advanced math, you get into irrational numbers, you get into fractions and percentages, and you get into all these sorts of things, and it becomes quite a bit different. Okay, so now we're taking this one petal, and this one I want you to wrap it around your finger, okay? So just place it on top of your finger, and then curl the bottom half, which will be the thick half. You see we have a thick half and a pointy half. Curl the bottom half over, and I'm gonna have to actually do this on my pinky because my fingers are too big. And we're gonna put this right in the center, and then take some of these brass fasteners that I just happen to have here. Put everything in place and just push right through the center. Oh, we might have to do one at a time. These brass fasteners are a little bit weak. So I'm going to just do one at a time. And be careful here, because even though the brass fasteners aren't pointy, or excuse me, they are pointy, they're not sharp, but if you're not careful, you can go right into your finger and that could hurt. I'm just trying to go real easy here. And it's okay to take your time. Better to be safe and take your time than to hurt yourself because you're going too quickly. Bend these over. Give it one more push if everything is flattened out a little bit. We can even spin this around so that it's a little, there we go. And there you have your basic orchid. Now with this center petal, you can take and just have one, because I know there are a lot of orchids that have one. When I first saw a couple of these different orchids, I thought that they had 6 petals because they had one crazy petal in the center. It was like a tongue. Like if you look at that, it's like the orchid sticking its tongue out at you. Or you can cut it into strips and make 4 or 5 of them. Orchids are very diverse species of flower. So check out a bunch of photos on the internet and use this basic technique. You should be able to do whatever you need to do. There you have it. That's another flower under your hat. Although it's probably not under your hat because, I mean, well, there's not a lot of room under my hat. Is that a dig at myself? Was I saying I have no brains under my hat? I don't know. Anyway, experiment, guys. There are a bunch of different flowers out there you can check out on the internet. They're all the basic same design. Couple of petals interposed on top of another few petals, whatever the number is, and then, you know, just tack them together and you're good to go. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.